over a minute. Okay, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't have Karen yet.
Not yet. I think she's coming in today, though.
Oh, she's physically coming?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And Jake's there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's Karen. Tom will be late.
It's like a
Half a minute.
rubber pad on the bottom.
Good afternoon. We welcome you all here. We'll call to order the study meeting, of West Valley City Council. We note that we have a quorum currently present. Councilmember Tom Hyun will join us shortly, and we'll have all council members here participating. When I say here, I mean participating. With that, then, our minutes of September 7th. If we have a motion on those.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second. Properly for us. If they're okay the way they are, sounds like it. Then without objection, the minutes will be approved. Hearing no objection, the minutes are approved and unanimously. Okay, then reviewing our agendas for our council meeting later this evening and the Special Redevelopment Agency meeting later after that. Any concerns or questions on these? There were no changes, so we still have the same items with the same information. Although if any of you got more information, you're always welcome to share it in regular meetings, phone calls or whatever. Okay. With that, then we'll go to a public hearing scheduled for next week. GPZ-7-2020 filed by Holiday Oil on property at 6443 West, 3500 South. This will be one of those where there's a general plan change, a zoning change, and a development agreement. And so, Mr. Pastrick, I have to turn around and make sure he's here. One of these days, he's going to fall in love with that microphone and get real close to it, but it hasn't happened yet.
Just need to have an extension for it. So, thank you, Mayor. This item, as you point out, is a change to our general plan and zoning. And the property, you can see there, is located at 6443 West, 35th South. The property currently has a home on it. We'll go to this next image. There we go. So you can see directly east of the property in question is a Holiday Oil convenience store. And the property, again, in question has a home on it, and Holiday Oil is looking to rezone this property so they can expand the convenience store that's there on the corner. So the plan would be to demolish the home and then expand the convenience store. And so that's the the reason for the request from R18 to the C1 zone. The C1 zone being the zone on the convenience store. So we go to the next few images here. So this is looking at the existing convenience store, looking south from 35th. This is the home that would be demolished if this is approved. So again, this would make way for an expanded convenience store. Just another shot looking south at the home on the left, one to be demolished. And then you can see there's homes east, or excuse me, west of that home along 35th. This is looking from 6400 West to the west at the convenience store. Now, this was the original concept plan that was shown to the Planning Commission. And this application actually started last year. And at the time, they were anticipating that UDOT would only allow one approach on 35th South. So because of that, to allow for circulation, they assumed that they would need to essentially demolish the existing convenience store and then build all new. So that was the version of the plan that was shown to the Planning Commission. But then they worked with UDOT and were able to get a variance that they could have a second point of access. So this next plan is what their latest proposal. So they would have the two approaches on 35th South, and then they would be able to essentially add on or expand the existing C store. But then they would also relocate the car wash. So right now, and we'll go back quickly here. You can see from this image, the car wash is there on the south side, left side of the image. And so that would be relocated to the west side of the property, which is essentially where the home is now. As far as the application goes, again, just a quick summary, it's a change from R18 to C1 for zoning, and then amending the general plan from low density residential to the neighborhood commercial. There's also a development agreement that's proposed as part of this. So this section of 35th South, the plan is that it would eventually be widened. And so I'm going back to the aerial image for a minute. So you can see right now, you just have essentially one lane in each direction. Then you have the turn lanes there at the signal. So eventually the plan is that this road would be widened at some point in the future. And so the development agreement includes right-of-way dedication for both the home parcel as well as the existing convenience store. So we would get dedication on both. But then it also provides for the landscaping to be measured from the existing property line. So let me explain what that's about. So if I go back to sorry for toggling back and forth here. So right now, the existing landscaping is about 20 feet along, which is the minimum requirement along 35th South. There are places under this latest concept where they can add additional landscaping, but there are other places, given the location of the canopy, where they would have to essentially move the canopy and reconfigure the site. So while the agreement would require dedication, there are some places in the future where once the road was widened, they would be short the amount of landscaping that's the 20 feet, or that's their requirement today. So the development agreement would allow the minimum requirement for landscaping to be based on the setback that's in place today, if that makes sense.
Say that again. I'm
Sure.
trying to understand what that means.
Yeah, so probably easier to explain if I go back to the aerial image here. So right now, if you look at the convenience store site along 35th, they have 20 feet of landscaping. Okay, that's
between the
sidewalk and the driveway that goes like in front of the canopy and the convenience store. So it's this area here. So from the sidewalk to here is 20 feet.
Okay.
So that 20 feet would remain. And right now the property line is at the back of the sidewalk. So from the property line south, you've got 20 feet. With the right-of-way dedication, there would be 13 feet south of the sidewalk that would be dedicated to make room for expanded roadway. And so what it's saying is that in that area here on the east side, the landscaping that would be left is what would remain. So they wouldn't be required to add additional landscaping given the existing location of the canopy. But then if you go to this plan, so again, think of it, so the property lines here, when the road widens, you'd have about 7 feet left of landscaping here. And then here you would have, there's about roughly 25 feet. So there you would have about 12 feet left between where the new sidewalk would be into the building.
Given that that's a state highway, what benefit is there to us to require the dedication now?
So it's, whenever we can, as part of new development, we require dedication, whether it be on a city street or a state facility. And so in this situation where they're asking for a zone change, it's just trying to get that as soon as we can or early on, just essentially saving the public dollar, if you will, by being able to secure the dedication now and not having to purchase the property later.
Well, to UDOT's benefit.
True.
Right? I mean,
It is for UDOT's benefit.
they'll come and get it when they want it anyway.
They could, right, at some point in the future, if the city does not require the dedication, then UDOT would have to acquire the property at some point in the future.
So until UDOT comes and takes that property, they're gonna maintain the 20 feet of landscaping that they have.
Exactly, right. So even though they would dedicate the property to us now, they would continue to maintain that until some point in the future when UDOT widens the street.
Do we have any idea when that will happen?
The plan for, so Wasatch Front Regional Council has the regional transportation plan. And this section of 35th South, if memory serves, is like 20 to 30 years out. So it's pretty long-term in terms of future widening in this section.
In the minutes, it said between 40 and 50, year 40 and year 50, 2040, 2050. We should all live so long.
Right, and it really, generally speaking, as you move west, the volume drops as you move west, so.
Yeah. So when word got out about this in March or April, I received quite a few phone calls against it.
Right.
I haven't read the minutes from the planning commission yet. Were there quite a few people that showed up?
We did have a number of people that, I don't recall the exact number, but people that were in opposition in the immediate neighborhood, concerned about just expanding the convenience store and hours, things like that.
Okay.
When I first pulled it up and looked at that house being highlighted, that this is the zone change of that, no way. You know, here we go again, house by house by house. I'm more in favor of it as part of a continuing use, the expansion, than if it was just something new. But I probably would have voted against the Holiday Oil. So, I don't know.
And their reasoning is they already have a car wash, so they really just, can they not make the store bigger without acquiring this property?
Right, right, they need
There's
the
not enough
additional
land.
property.
So is there any way, well, tell me on that picture, is the property line that more solid, darker line behind the store?
So along the south
What the
side.
property is,
west.
yes,
Yeah,
the west,
so,
the
yeah.
east side, actually, the east.
So yeah, this line here is the existing line between the house and the convenience store. So
Okay.
current property line.
So what would prohibit them from adding on to the store as they have it laid out there? Is it the backs, the rear yard setback? Or the,
So couple things is,
Okay.
so one is that, so on this image, you can see here, they're wanting to expand the or the canopy. So that's essentially,
one more
blocking the
stop?
flow to where the car wash is currently.
Okay,
So that's part of the reason why they're wanting to move the car wash to the west side, is to expand the existing gas canopy. And then if we go back to the, aerial image here. So right now, there's actually, you can drive around the building. And
Oh,
if
okay.
they expanded, then you would no longer have that
get to
the
it.
circulation around, because yeah, right now for the car wash, you can kind of drive around the convenience store.
Okay.
But by adding on, that would block the access around the building.
And they're wanting to add on to the canopy, but not remove any canopy to the north end
That's
of it.
correct. Yeah, they're wanting to, yeah, just expand the number of pumps that would be on the site.
All right, so we're gonna give them, okay. Interesting.
Any further comments?
This has been in the works for how long?
So they first made application last year. And when the planning commission recommended approval, they basically held off on and having it come to the council so they could work with UDOT on the access points. Now, they did that, so to speak, at their own risk, knowing that, the council had not made a decision on the zone change. But I think they wanted to know whether this type of a layout would be possible, because having the two access points does pretty significantly change the layout from, what they're hoping for here versus what was shown the planning or shown to the planning commission.
Seems
Question.
it's been in the works that long. It's not a vital change that they need to make in the next 2 months. They've waited this long.
Hey, Steve, question on the existing lot with the home there. If the zoning was left, was untouched or unchanged, are there other configurations there that a developer could build within that R18, or is it pretty much just that one home sitting there, maybe a flag lot or something like that, or what does that look like?
So I'll go back to the aerial image here that shows that. I don't believe the parcel's large enough to have a flag lot. So in order to have a flag, you would need, there would be the 8,000 square foot lot in the front. And then a flag needs to be at least 12,000 square feet. So just doing the quick math there, the parcel's not large enough.
Mhm.
So basically, if it stays R18, it would stay the one house. It's not large enough to be further subdivided.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And when
guess-
was that? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just, thinking about, I like nice, spacious, clean gas stations and car washes as much as the next person, but nobody recently has been asking me for that. Folks have definitely been asking for housing options here in the city, so that's always going to be my dilemma in these decisions there.
That home seems to be newer than the ones around it. Do you know what year it was built?
2002,
Because it's a nice house.
it is.
3-car garage,
Yep,
solar panels.
yep.
Is it currently owned by the applicant?
I don't believe they've acquired it. At the time they applied, they were not the owner. So unless they've purchased it since then, it was still just the homeowner there, or the person that's living there.
So that, this could go through and it might not ever happen because they might not be able to acquire the property.
So at the time when they applied, they had the property owner's signature on the application. So I believe they have it under contract,
Okay.
but again, I'm not sure the latest status of that, if it's still under contract or if they've purchased it or what the
Might
situation
have an
is.
option on it, but
Right.
I mean, truly, I'm not in favor of this application. But if it were to pass, I would rather have the first presentation, the first concept plan, where they just start with a brand new store. It takes and puts the gas pumps further away from the homes right there. I mean, right now, adding that one puts a lot more commotion next to the homes. So, or move the car wash closer to the store so that it's not an impact on those residents to the west. I mean, I can feel for them having all that noise because these guys are open 24/7. So it'd be a huge impact for those residents.
You know, this reminds me a lot of our discussion that we had a few years ago, back before Jake was on the council, on 4100 South, on some of the intersections, and should we allow commercial development in those intersections, and how far, you know? Certainly 41 compared to 35th is already in many respects a lot of commercial development there. But then it's on this one on 6400 West. You know, how does that fit in long term? Are we waiting for something better, or will this type of development take place anyway? Obviously 3500 West, South is a busy corridor and will get busier. I know Magna is approving some major projects out west. And some of that traffic, fortunately not all of it, they'll go to 201, but still some of that traffic will come through West Valley. And will have an impact on 41st and 35th. And we know that development will somewhat gradually take place, especially at intersections. And what is the criteria we use for when that occurs? I don't know that we ever set any, although we had a lot of similar discussion before. And I think one of those was where that there by the Hunter Library, where that little store and restaurant went. And we asked them to do some specific things. Is there something we could do here to make this more palatable? I think if it doesn't occur now, it may occur in the future. Just by natural growth, there will be pressure to expand along 3500 South. And not immediately, now may not be the time, but the concerns expressed by residents are always the same: traffic and noise and lights. But our city continues to grow. Our city continues to have need of services, and I would rather have them here than outside the city. Is this one of those cases? I can't say that for sure.
Maybe just one other thing I would point out, just by way of background for the council. So on the southeast corner of this intersection, you have this hardware store here. And this was maybe, I'm guessing about 10 years ago, the hardware store owner acquired this lot here, which was a home, and then demolished the home to expand the parking lot. So again, just by way of background, so there's at least one example where that was expanded somewhat to make more room for parking.
What's the zoning on the corner of 35th and 64 on the northeast corner?
Northeast, I believe it's still agricultural, or and it may be R18. I'll double check that, but it's not commercial for sure.
Yeah, now on that corner, that's a fairly large lot with is it one or two homes up there? Right on 35th, and then a lot of empty space, agricultural space.
Right.
And high probability one day that'll go commercial. Or the request will come in, I should say. But the pressure will be, again, to move to commercial. Because that's where businesses like to be, on an intersection.
Looks like there's about 5 lots along there that are that way.
Are there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or more.
So for me, the business to the east expanding, I don't think is justification for letting these guys expand. They have all the services they need as they are. They're making their store bigger, but that's about it. They already have a car wash. They already have everything that works for that area. So I just don't see the need for disruption to that many more neighbors. Especially where you're putting a pump closer to residential, a car wash closer to residential. I mean, I just think it's a huge impact on that neighborhood.
Sure. And yeah, certainly the council can deny the request. I just simply brought it up by way of background that there'd been at least one case where that had been
Right.
done.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
I think Ken Lindsay has a very good point. I didn't like that argument from her because they have everything they need right now.
I guess a lot of this, as we look at these main streets, is it timing? Or is it that we don't ever want it to develop? And that's a good perspective to have, because we keep getting these coming to us saying, I want to develop this, I want it to go commercial, I want it to be a car lot, I want to build apartments. And that pressure is always there. Do we want to set a standard as far as trying to make this consistent in our city? I always liked, I want to treat everyone the same. And so, I don't know, just food for thought that if we don't want these to develop, should we set that as somewhat of a standard?
And that,
And that's to the council, Steve, but you're welcome to comment.
I'm just going to make the point that to some degree, I hope that the general plan serves that function and that our plan says that we want this to stay as a home. And they have to make, someone would need to make a pretty compelling argument for why to change it.
Yeah. Well, the general plan is that without question. But also the council has looked at that several times and has made changes. And, do we want to make those changes piecemeal or on a broader scale? I guess should we change the general plan? I'm not advocating anything. I'm just having the discussion.
Trying to scan the development agreement really quick. What kind of fencing are they going to put around everything?
So the code requires that they put up a masonry wall. So
Okay.
there's already one there on the south side of the existing, well, and along south and west side of the property. And so they would have to expand that to the new parcel.
Yeah.
How high is that fence? Is it
6
6
feet.
foot?
So I mean, right now, the car wash kind of blocks some of the noise going to the resident to the south. And
Except for the
Pumps
car
aren't-
wash noise.
right,
Yeah.
but I mean, the street light, the lights coming in and out, pointing at that house, which would be more intense, and they can't put a taller wall. So I just think the impact on the neighbors is gonna change a lot.
On the lighting specifically, one of the things we could do, again, if the council was wanting to approve it, at the time this was built, we didn't have like specific light standards. It's old enough. Since that time, we have new standards that apply whenever a commercial use is next to residential. So they have to use cutoffs and other, design treatments so that the light doesn't spill over, and actually demonstrate that by measuring light levels. So we could, amend the agreement to also say that not only does the new area have to comply with the light standards, they have to retrofit the existing site to meet the new standards as far as the new lighting standards.
But when
Oh.
I'm pulling off 3,500 going south into the facility right now, my lights from my car are blocked because of the car wash going into that resident's house.
Right.
Whereas now that car pulls in, it'll go over that little 6-foot fence and illuminate that house all the time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So here's the store, the car wash. I pull in off 3,500 and my car light just, and if you're driving a lifted truck,
Okay.
your car lights are going to go into that residence where the car wash is removed. It's going to go right into that house instead of being partially blocked by the car wash.
Right.
So that's what I'm more worried about than the above lighting,
Gotcha.
because some of those trucks are lifted quite a ways. And we don't permit them to put a 8 or 12-foot fence to block that.
So we have, there have been a number of cases where we've granted a taller fence because of any, could be topography or other reasons where we've made an exception. But typically it's 6 feet.
And this doesn't have that elevation change to the ones I've had.
I guess I would comment on the business side of that. Obviously, this particular owner must assume or must be having enough business that he wants to expand. Typically, that's why businesses expand, is because their business is receiving more than they can handle in their current size. So the proposal is to expand the number of pumps and to expand the size of the store. I assume the car wash is the same. It's just
But they're gonna
moving.
move it. I think it'll be
Yeah.
bigger, isn't it? From the picture, it looks like it's larger than what it is now.
The car wash,
Yeah,
I believe it is a little bit bigger, but not much.
okay.
Yeah. So, and how much of the business that they receive is from essentially that area? I mean, I usually don't drive 5 miles to gas up my car. Usually I go somewhere pretty close because it's a commodity and it's pretty well the same. So I assume that the people who are frequenting that are from that area, including that neighborhood. I don't know. So this is an attempt by the business to better serve those needs. And it will have an impact on the neighborhood. So I'm just talking out loud, so.
Well, a good point too, Mayor. It's great. Steve,
Yes, sir.
so they get one more canopy and also a bigger store. Is that right?
So they're wanting to, right,
And
expand.
then the car wash gonna be moved to the back, moved to the west, right?
Yeah, so it's expanding the canopy, moving the car wash to the west side of the property on the part that would be where the home is now, and then expanding the convenience store building.
Yeah, okay. All right. Can we do the wall right there, 8 feet wall or something, that'd be all right? Or is it that we ask them too much?
At this stage, I believe that's something we could add if the council desired to add that as a requirement that the wall, and we would want to specify where this would be, but if we wanted on both the south and the west sides to be taller, we could include that in the development agreement.
Yeah, this case about the light, it looked like the case on 3500 South and 3200 West CVS store. You remember that one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the light went into one family that's above light, and then she couldn't sleep, and she came to city and she asked that. I remember that one. So this one, Kenland, she concerned about the truck, going there and go to car wash, and then maybe the headlight go over to the west side. So can we make a wall a bit higher when asked them? That be all right, or you think will be okay?
So yes, that is something we can do as staff. I would just, want to look to the council. If the majority of the council would like that, then we can basically amend the development agreement and have the owner re-sign the agreement.
Yeah, I think the reason the mayor, he brought up about the demanding right there, the store, the convenience store gonna get bigger, more canopy right there. So maybe the business may be doing better and they need more, just kind of like the 41 South Redwood Road, the Smith right there in the future. When that apartment complex is done, I think the Smith gonna make it bigger. But demand is very high in that corner. So it makes sense.
I understand.
Any further comments? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe just to clarify then, it didn't
Oh.
sound like the majority of the council wanted that change as far as the development agreement change to include a higher wall.
Well, yes, if that change would be enough to change people's feelings about voting for or against it, that would be worthwhile to do. And so I guess that's the question. There are the three options: prove it as it is with the changes that it'll make in the neighborhood, or disapprove it, nothing changes, or say, if you will do X and Y or A and B, then we're okay with it. So is there an A and B change that would make the council feel better about it?
I just pulled up Google Earth and looked straight into that house. And it's actually elevated about 6 feet. The porch line is above the fence for the back door.
Yeah, it looks like it's a split entry or something that's taller.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. The window
And-
is right there.
and the one window is right there. The other windows are covered by the trees.
Yeah.
But
I think you actually drop down to the Holiday Oil property. If you look from the east. So the fence that's 6 feet, if you're looking from Holiday Oil, is not 6 feet. If you're looking from the other side of
yeah,
the fence.
Well, and this could be brought as an amendment by motion. I mean,
Yeah.
if it didn't pass and someone wanted to get, well, what if we change the wall, then can we get it passed or whatever? We don't need to decide that.
Well,
tonight
if
either.
we have a general indication that might help, that's not a commitment or a vote. But if it won't, then why have staff do it? If that's a significant issue,
I don't think that would change my opinion.
yes, well, here's what I'll say then. And as usual, you can override me or whatever you want to do. Staff doesn't need to do anything, but it appears that it won't change the outcome of the vote, or it wouldn't make any difference to those who are voting for or against it. Disagreement. Okay.
Thank you.
Don't need to do anything. Thank you. Okay, next, let's see. We have a consent agenda item. This is again one on the 4700 South. And again, the same types of things and routine $400 plus payment, like all of them, just about. Need any more information? Okay, then we'll go to communications, mosquito abatement district presentation. And if you'll introduce yourself and who you represent and what role you play in the mosquito abatement district, that'd be great.
For sure. My name's Ryan Lusty. I'm the manager of the Magna Mosquito Abatement District. And we're called the Magna Mosquito Abatement District. However, we also service half of West Valley City and most of Kearns. The person that is represented from this group is Janice Fisher. She would have been here today. However, she is having eye surgery at the moment. So wish her well. And she is grateful to all of you for her opportunity to serve. She told me to tell you that. And she sends her regrets that she's not able to be here. So with that, I'm just here to talk to you about what we have been doing mostly this summer, what we do generally at the Magna Mosquito Abatement District, and kind of just who we are. And if you have any questions at the end, we'll feel free to do that. There are two basic things that we do with the mosquito abatement. First is larval control, and it's the main thing that we try to do. So in that dipper that Hannah there is dipping into the water, like that's how we find the mosquitoes in the water, and everything, all those little worms that you see in that cup there are mosquitoes. So all of these areas are mapped out. We have about 8 seasonals per year, and their main job is to go out and find these spots and then treat them as they find them. And there's a lot that goes into that. I won't get into that much into the weeds of it unless you have questions on it. The next thing is adult mosquito control. This is a last resort for us. It's the one we're most known for, however, when you see the fog trucks going down the street. We don't do much neighborhood fogging anymore unless we find virus present. In those kind of situations, then we tend to need to get more proactive in neighborhoods that way. And then you'll see the mosquito trucks going through neighborhoods in that instance. This year, we've done a couple of things. I apologize for the picture. It's not the best, but the location of this trial that we did is off of 8,000 West and just off of the 201 there to the north. You can see 9 yellow dots out there, and I know they're not very easy to see, but each one is labeled A100, B100, C100. That is 100 feet from this road here with the blue line. The blue line is the path of the truck. So what we did is we set up these cages with 15 mosquitoes each in these cages. And then we used our fog truck to determine whether we were actually killing mosquitoes. There's also over here to the south of the road a control cage. The wind was blowing to the north from the south, and so we put the control cage where the fog wouldn't get it, if that makes sense. So just a quick graph on the results, and then I'll get into like an easier way to describe this. So before each one of these areas here, these represent 3 traps at different times. You've got before we sprayed here, And that's here as well and here as well. So there's 9 cages in all. And you can see after 30 minutes, we had a significant kill. Like I said, there was 15 mosquitoes in each cage. And then at 12 hours, we've had about a 97% kill. So to talk about that a little bit more in words with the picture here, this is the cage that we put the mosquitoes in. It sits on a tripod. And then like it just swings with the wind so that it can face where the fog is coming. This contraption is called slides. Basically, it spins and catches the droplets as they fall as they come out there to make sure that we're getting pesticide out to where it needs to be. So 50 mosquitoes in each of 9 cages. The control cage at 7:51 p.m. is when we did the treatment. Wind was about 4 miles per hour. One other thing on that, if the wind is stronger than 10 miles an hour, according to the label, we are not allowed to fog. It's illegal. If the wind is at 0, we are also not allowed to fog. So everything that we do is based on the label. So 30 minutes post-treatment, we saw about a 50% kill, as I said. 71 of 135 mosquitoes were dead. After 12 hours post-treatment, we had a 97% kill with 131 out of 135 dead. In the control cage, we saw 2 dead out of the 15. So we basically determined that what we're doing is working. One of the main things to do with adult control is our surveillance program. We put traps throughout the district. We put them out last night, actually, picked them up this morning. We sort through the mosquitoes and then we test them for disease at our offices. So that's actually our lab that we put in 2016. When we renovated our office, we built that. And then in 2018, we began testing our own mosquitoes in-house. Before that, we had been sending them into the Utah State Health Lab to test them for us. The reason that we wanted to test them in-house was mainly so that we could know sooner where the virus was, so we could get out and get to them before they spread. That being said, we are a mosquito abatement district. We're not a mosquito eradication district. You're going to see mosquitoes and we're going to see West Nile. That's just the way it is. All we are here to do is to control them to the best of our ability. So as of September 10th, the state of Utah has 572 West Nile virus positive mosquito PCR tests. That's between all districts in the state. Magna Mosquito has 30 positive mosquito pools from our testing. And there are also 15 human cases, 9 horses, and 6 chickens. We actually have a chicken program in our district. And just one thing really quick, 2021 has been a record year for mosquito pools testing positive. We've never reached 550 pools, let alone 572, and it will only continue to climb probably for the next couple of weeks. It is coming to an end. Mosquito season usually ends the middle of September because the mosquitoes realize that winter's coming and they honestly disappear. It's kind of my favorite time of the year, honestly. So our chicken flock, we have 12 chickens spread out throughout the district. We have 4 chickens in Magna, 4 chickens in West Valley, and 4 chickens in Kearns. And these chickens basically tell us something different than what the mosquitoes tell us. If we find West Nile or any other diseases in mosquito, we know that the virus is present. We actually send our we actually take blood from the chickens and then send that blood to California, and they test it for us for the disease. And what that tells us is that the mosquitoes are transmitting the virus. So there's a bit of different information that we get from those tests. We are actually, our testing for our mosquitoes is actually through Co-Diagnostics. It's a local Utah company. I don't know if you've heard of them. But they have developed a mosquito testing thing for us. And we are working with them right now to get a chicken blood serum test for us as well. And that should be in the works for next year. So we can test our chickens in-house as well. One other thing that we started this year is drone work. Most of our mosquito control, when it comes to larviciding, we do it with ATVs or by hand. We have a tracked vehicle that we use. This is the first year that we've actually been using a drone. And it's been pretty nice, honestly. It's amazing how well it works. Overall, I don't have the costs of up front right now. I've got it back there, but I didn't bring the cost for what each acreage costs if we're just doing it without the drone. However, for the drone, this year we've treated 180 acres. It's about 5 pounds per acre, which has cost $12,000 to treat that 180 acres. Which honestly sounds like a lot. However, when you are doing it by hand, it's at least, I know, again, I don't have the number exactly, but I would say it's at least double that. So by using a drone, we are saving quite a bit of money. And not only that, but the cost of one human case of neuroinvasive West Nile virus has been estimated to be about $400,000. So that's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Council?
I have a couple questions. So I've seen a lot of the green and yellow bug catchers. Those are not yours then?
Those are not ours. No,
Do you know what they are?
I do not, honestly.
Do you know what they are?
I've had them before, but I can't remember what they are. They bring them and hang them on our fence all the time.
So that mosquito trap that I was showing you, we bait our traps either with a CO2 tank or with dry ice. And yeah, on all of them, we have a label that says it's a Magna Mosquito Abatement District. So those that you're talking about it's not us.
It's a fly of some sort. So does the dry ice attract them?
Yes, as the dry ice sublimates, it releases the CO2, which attracts them. We've used light traps in the past, which will catch mosquitoes, but it catches a lot of other bugs. With CO2, dry ice, it only catches mosquitoes.
So when you have a party, just have dry ice over there in the corner and all the mosquitoes will go there?
Honestly, it would help. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You're still going to see some mosquitoes, but something like that helps.
All the mosquitoes and all the children.
That's
Oh,
yes.
that's interesting. Well, I just found out dryer sheets keep flies away.
Yeah.
And so,
Uh,
dryer sheets and dry ice,
There you go.
happy party.
Mhm.
Okay. What you learn. Okay.
Anything else? Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming. Let's see, next we have a shopping center discussion.
We have one more mosquito.
Oh, wait a minute. We have,
That's Dawn's.
it didn't show that. I do see the S now, presentations. I missed that first time through.
Can't blame that one on your ears, Mayor.
Sorry, sir, I'm sure that-
Didn't we used to have them separately? We just threw them together. Did that not before? Oh. Well, I wouldn't remember if we had.
Okay, this is the South Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement District. It takes in the other half of West Valley, plus 13 other communities in the South Salt Lake Valley, south of Salt Lake City. And I serve on the board, have for the last, I think, 3 years. You know, it was at the end of 1 year, and then we got started with board meetings, and then all of a sudden we went to this thing called Zoom. We haven't gotten together again since. But can I just use this as a touch screen? Okay, why don't you advance it one then? It's hard to see, it is in your presentation, but if you blow up that map, we have, the South Salt Lake Valley has 6 traps in West Valley City. They're all out on the northeast end of the city. And they do pick up quite a few mosquitoes. You'll see there that there were 243 pools tested, and we had 21 West Nile virus positive tests out of those pools. So 21 out of 243 is a little under 10%. Actually, in the district, there were 34 positive pools. And so we have about half of the pools for the entire district. And the map shows the district, so you can see how big that is. Next one. We have a couple of crews that go out. We've got the urban crew, and they will do the pond inspections, place either mosquito fish or larval control in ornamental ponds. They also treat horse troughs and tree holes. Many times we don't think of the tree holes, but water gets in there, it becomes stagnant, and the mosquitoes love it. So you can see how many we've treated there. The pond inspections, if they don't find anything, they leave a treatment if necessary, but if they don't find anything, they don't do that, okay? Next slide. We also do a catch basin program where the gutters and catch basins are also another place where standing water occurs, especially when it rains. This summer hasn't been that busy. We've only had 10,000 treatments this year out of 20,000 inspections, but we go out and we check all of those so we know where the mosquitoes are and treat them as necessary. Next one. And then each week we do about 191 sources. In other words, wetlands, other areas that mosquitoes could breed in. And we've treated this summer 209 sources. So we try to keep it down. And this is again where they're treating the larval rather than the fogging, killing off the adult mosquitoes, because that's really a last ditch effort. Next one. We also work with black flies. We do about 16 inspections for black flies each week also. And most of our adulticiding or truck fogging is done in the evening. That's when the mosquitoes are out. If you follow the legislature, they did a ban on it under certain conditions because apparently we caught somebody's party and he didn't like the fact that we fogged the neighborhood while he was having a party. So we have to notify and take a lot of time to make sure that the public knows we're coming around to kill the mosquitoes. We only did 10 events this summer, so you can see that that's not a big thing. we go out and try to educate the classrooms too. We've made 11 presentations in classrooms in West Valley City. Okay, any questions? And I might say that those 10 events that we did of the fogging were a third of how many we did in the entire district. There were 34 total events in the entire district. So that biggest space, and it's the last ditch effort, just like was mentioned.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
No more mosquito abatement districts.
We're only covered by 2.
And we're gonna have another one just for comparison. Well, thank you. Now we'll go to our shopping center discussion. And who's doing that?
Steve.
Steve?
Yes, sir.
You know, when it was a Zoom meeting, they have their name and their picture pop up. Who's gonna present it?
All right, so this is just a follow-up conversation we had from a few weeks ago. So the council had requested some information about commercial zoning on properties that are under 1 acre. And so this first map shows, you can see the reddish color, the properties, for example, along 35th South, Redwood Road, that are that red color are properties that are zoned either C1, C2, or C3 and are less than 1 acre. So these are, whether they're developed or not, this is just those properties that are under 1 acre. And so all land that represents 243 acres. And the other kind of orange color just represents the just residential areas. So I know Mayor's, you had requested just to kind of see that in relation to the commercial area. So that's all residential. So whether it's apartments, single family, just all residential lumped together. And then this next image, our next map. So residential is the same, but this one only shows those properties that are under or so zoned commercially under 1 acre and are vacant. And this one obviously is much, much less in terms, just in comparing from the previous slide. So not many parcels that are vacant. So any questions on either of those maps?
Council members?
Steve,
Yes, sir.
so you said under 1 acre, is there any particular, maybe half acre or more than half acre? Or just all of them, similar to?
Right, so they range in size. The C2 zone, but any commercial zone has to have a minimum size of 20,000 square feet, which is just under half an acre. So that's the minimum. Now, we will have a few properties that are under that just because they're really, really old and predated zoning. But most of the properties would be at least 20,000 and then up to just under an acre.
Okay. The second map right there is showing us the red vacant property right there is under 1 acre. It's not very many compared with the first map you had earlier,
Correct.
right? That a few right there on Redwood Road and a few right there on 3500 South. I want to ask the council to support to do something with those.
So this does not reflect what the general plan would allow to be commercial. This
Does
is
not.
just as it is right this minute.
Exactly. It's as zoned right now.
So there's potentially a lot more less than 1 acre properties that could be rezoned to commercial if we change the ordinance to allow commercial on less than 20,000.
I wouldn't say there's a lot, and that's something we could
That's
look
kinda-
at
yeah,
as to,
okay.
look at too, but we don't, most of the areas that are planned commercial are actually already zoned commercial along major
Okay.
streets. There'll be some exceptions to that, but I wouldn't say there's a lot more.
Uh, You still there?
Yes.
To be fair with those landowners, we have to allow them to have their option to do what they have right now. The C2, that's the commercial right now. It does not make sense. They pay property tax and other things, and they cannot use their land. And we don't want to see the the yard sale there on the weekend. We have to do something about it. If were you in your shoe, you have your land there and you pay a property tax, pay the fine. If someone put trash there, you have to pay stuff to the city, and people that put the stuff there to sell stuff there on the weekend. You think it's fair for you? I wouldn't. And you cannot use that land. You cannot build a house, you cannot build, you cannot build density, you cannot build houses there because UDOT has a problem, UDOT, and density because the cities believe that's a small, under 1 acre, we cannot do anything about it. And a commercial, because they're not 1 acre, so they stuck. You think that's fair? I don't think so.
Further comments or?
So this is mainly information tonight, and then we can study it and go back and see if we want to change anything. Is that the purpose?
Yes, just providing that additional information the council requested.
But anyone can make comments or ask questions and.
I think one of my problems is it's hard to figure out where these little dots are. I mean, what this little red dot, approximately 3,200 west and 3,500 south. It's just kind of hard to know what they're around. But these are already zoned, so it doesn't really matter. I think it'd be more useful to know what's kind of in limbo. How many are in limbo?
So properties that maybe are on like Redwood 35th that aren't zoned and are vacant, or?
Correct, yeah.
Because I know like, the one that I believe Councilman Hune's referring to actually has a home on it.
Okay.
So that's,
Oh, that would be
sometimes it's-
difficult then.
it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because even though it may be a larger parcel, sometimes they will have a home on them. So it's, right. It might even just be looking at anything on a certain street that's under half an acre, for example, or under an acre.
So it would be hard to know what the ramifications are going to be if we change it, because it could include 200 properties that right now just have a home on it, but are on a busy street.
Right.
And that makes it a lot more complicated.
But also, Steve, right here, I'm talking about one property that's below 2,700 south on Redwood Road is vacant, no house on that property. And that's 0.85 acre, it's more than 20,000 square feet. And based on information, based on the regulation we have right now, they cannot do they cannot build or they cannot put a strip mall there because they are under 1 acre and they have no house on that property.
So, I mean, that raises a question in my mind. Are there properties where, because of the size and because of the zoning, you absolutely cannot do anything? I mean, is that true, that you can't build anything on a property?
No, so every property will have some zone, right? That, and I believe that this particular one zoned R18, I want to say, so that, under R18, you can
So
still.
they could build a
develop,
house, plenty big for a house, maybe even 2 houses.
Right. So just based on, I mean, every zone allows something. It just may not be the level of intensity that the owner's seeking.
We don't have any property even zoned residential where we say, but it's too small to build on, or, I mean, that could happen, couldn't it?
The only situation where that would be the case is that, well, I'll back up. So we do have some parcels in the city that were created before we even had zoning, right? And so in that case, they're sort of grandfathered, if you will. But if someone, let's say today, just goes down to the county and records a deed and creates a lot that doesn't meet our standards, then we would not actually issue a permit. If it's smaller than what we require, and they just create it without city approval. But as long as it's a legal lot, whether it predated zoning or it was created legitimately, then they can build on it.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
So a couple of them on Redwood Road right now, under 1 acre, can they build a strip mall? They cannot, right? Because it has to be 1 acre and above and vacant land.
Right, and so it doesn't allow for a strip mall, but if someone has C2 zoning, there's a number of other commercial uses that can be done. So it's the exclusion for a shopping center or a strip mall just applies to properties under 1 acre, but a property that's zoned commercial could still have a standalone store or a daycare or a bank or any number of other commercial uses. It's just the strip mall exclusion under 1 acre.
Maybe a strip mall doesn't need to be the height of our aspirations.
But I think right here, a very tough business right there, Steve, in Metro Patrick, because some areas in Redwood, on Redwood Road there, you cannot do 1 unit like $50 or Dollar Tree something to build on that, because it's hard, it's tough. And so basically you lock them in a corner, a landowner. It's a very narrow market for them. They cannot get a Starbucks there because it cannot support the Starbucks. See what I'm saying? So it's useless for them. We have to
I
study
gave a
about this.
couple of examples of other uses, but I assume there must be a list of those. Don't have it in front of me, but there's a number of different uses.
Correct. So in the zoning ordinance, there's a commercial use table where there's a long list of commercial uses. And then in the C2 zone, you can see which of those are allowed in the C2 zone.
So, but is in the small, less than 1 acre, the only exception that you can't from that list is the strip mall?
Right. That's I don't recall any other uses that have that specific exclusion, but for sure, the shopping malls or shopping centers as they're defined in the code is under 1 acre is prohibited.
I personally, we need to adjust that. That's 1 acre, too big. A big jump like 20,000 to 43,560 square feet. And people, they cannot go in there with one single tenant. Starbucks, McDonald's, some area, I mean, 35 south, they can go and they can do something about it. But Redwood Road, you and I, we know that so well. The traffic, they close very much the same number, like 5600 West. But the business is very low. But we know why. And you think it's fair for the landowners? Not at all. Not at all.
If he said something, I should respond to him. Okay, is that all the comments and questions? And
Yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of time to even digest this.
I'm sorry, what?
I said it's gonna take some time just to digest this much information.
Okay,
So I think it's something we need to come back to.
everyone's okay with that? All right. Then I gotta close that. We'll go to the council calendar. Any comments? Potential future agenda items? No comments. Council reports.
I attended Association of Municipal Councils this morning, or this afternoon. And again, found out that we're ahead of the game. We had a report from Alan Rindlisbacher, EDC Utah. And he never did call us out directly, but he did mention there were several cities that weren't members of EDC Utah. So when he told us everything that he was doing, I thought, well, that's why we're not a member. We're doing the same things. And we don't need to spend money to join a group that's telling us, or that we're telling them what we do already. But they talked about development-ready communities and doing a community assessment, planning, community marketing. Well, we've been doing that for at least the 12 years I've been associated with the council. And then training and preparation. And then they do have some integration and support that they do, but it's really not worth the cost of being a member to have them integrate and support us, because we're doing it all ourselves anyway. So, but they did. No, we keep coming with water being a problem for the state. And I said that's one of the limitations of many of the community development projects that they're getting nationwide and trying to bring to Utah, is that we're a desert. And we don't have that water available that they might need. And once we can figure out that, figure out the water laws, and maybe make some changes, we might get a little more development going. I think we could have made the same presentation to everybody, but we keep doing it. So that's it.
I attended the My Hometown event on Saturday. They had a grand opening of the Community Resource Center. And it was a really big deal. It was very successful. A lot of people there, volunteers and community members. It's a great thing that's happening.
And continues to happen.
Yeah.
They're not a one-time thing. They're ongoing.
It's been a very positive program in the city.
Yes.
And then you attended a ribbon cutting.
Ribbon cutting today for Duluth. And great big warehouse they have there. Also on last Wednesday, we had Scales and Tells here at our park, and they did a little presentation. We thank them on behalf of the city for being a good, supportive, interactive West Valley business, and for they had an event that was potentially disarming some time ago, but it all turned out well, and the young lady was there and she's fine, and the family with the birthday party were there and they're fine, and they're all happy with each other. So although there are some organizations, national organizations, that are unhappy with them, and I was wondering that with the mosquito abatement too. Do you got PETA on your back about killing the mosquitoes, or they
Yeah,
haven't got that far yet?
legislature gets on our back about fogging, so.
Uh-huh. Well, they know best, as we all know. That'd be the extent of that, Mayor.
Okay. I think I would just mention, we did hold a TRCC meeting. The funding that was originally available for various projects that the county had put on hold almost 2 years ago. They reinstated those. So those will be going to the county council, and we had the project on there for the veterans. Now, not sure what all that means, but at least it's been proposed that we reinstate those.
Okay, so how, I mean, best case scenario, how will that affect us?
Under certain circumstances, funds would be available for the Veterans Memorial. 2.5 million, 500,000 for 5 years. Which there are conditions on that that are very difficult to achieve. Under the current, if they reapprove it the way it is, we would have to raise another $6 million in the next 12 months.
Oh,
And if we don't get anything. So we'll see what they decide to do. But that's currently the status. Just, that does say something where they're releasing funds to, and ours was one of, 15 projects that were funded. Or thereabouts. From small amounts to large amounts. Anything else? There's no need for a closed session. So I believe we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
Without objection, we'll stand adjourned. Hearing no objection, that was unanimous for adjourn. Thank you.